Dominic Carter Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Saritha Komatireddy. She's running for New York State Attorney General. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Dominic. It's great to be here.
Well, you look fantastic. You got on your nice red. Is that red or what? Is that fuchsia? Fuchsia. Okay, so that's like an off red, right? Or a bright
right.
red. So, you know, I'm so glad this is the first time you're in studio. And, folks, she's going to be taking your telephone calls. The lines are open right now, 800-848-9222. No speeches, questions. You know, you start with a speech, I will cut you off. So when I first noticed your credentials, right, we see candidates come and go all the time. And most of them go, frankly, okay? Most of them go. But every now and then you meet a special one. You see a special one. And when I saw your credentials in terms of Harvard Law School, correct me if I'm wrong here, Harvard Law School, federal prosecutor for the Eastern District, prosecuting the Mexican cartels, Al-Qaeda, and on and on and on, chief of staff for the DEA. And then the last time you joined me, you dropped at the end of the show, dropping it like it's hot. You told me that you're a mom as well. Is that accurate?
That's right. I have 4 children.
4 kids.
Yes.
4 kids. Okay, so...
Want to hear something cool?
Go. I do. Go ahead.
It's 2 sets of twins.
2 sets of twins? Mm-hmm. And how old are they?
The older set is 7, and the younger set is almost 2.
Wow. So how do you do all of these things that you've done with your life? And I want to focus on Letitia James in just a moment, the incumbent. But okay, well, let me change this. Do you see this as the year that you think she can go down?
Yeah, I see this as the year that it's time for common sense New Yorkers to rise up. This is about what we're going to accomplish this year. The reality is Letitia James has already had 2 terms as Attorney General. She's had her chance, and we've seen what she's accomplished. Crime is up in New York State. Homelessness is up. Fraud and corruption is something that we just expect every day. We've all gotten used to it because we know no one's really policing these agencies and departments and state officials in the way that they should. We've seen 2 terms of total failure and a deterioration of public safety. So it's time for a change. It's time to have a law enforcement professional, a prosecutor, become Attorney General who's going to protect New Yorkers, tackle crime, solve the homelessness crisis, take on fraud and corruption, bring money back to New Yorkers instead of finding new ways to take it away. And that's what people want. So I think of this when I look at this election, it's not just about getting rid of the old. It's about what we're going to bring to the job and what we're going to be able to accomplish. And there's so many promising things we can accomplish with the powers of the Attorney General if you know someone who's actually going to use those powers properly.
Well, I believe there's going to be at least one debate. I know you've challenged her to a series of debates statewide, Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, Binghamton, so on. Will there be at least one debate?
According to state law, there must be at least one debate so long as both candidates are taking matching funds. We expect to be doing that. She has said that she will be doing that. And so if she's going to follow the law, there will be at least one debate.
At least one debate. And what will that debate look like?
That's a good question. You know, as I've said, we've said we should have a debate in every major city in the state so that New Yorkers across the state can meet the candidates and ask questions and understand what their positions are. So there should be more than one debate. We should be doing a series of debates between now and November so people can really dig into the AG's race.
It's very interesting. So I've asked you this question before, and you said you weren't worried about it. But being a federal prosecutor, dealing with Al-Qaeda, Mexican cartels, because I remember covering the trial. I forgot the big drug dealer's name in the Eastern District, and he's in one of these supermax prisons right now.
Were you covering the trial of El Chapo?
Yes, El Chapo. And I remember one of the defense counsel, I forgot his name, but big prominent guy. And, you know, my mind started racing, Madam Candidate. I said, you know what? So it was after court one night, and I'm like, if I'm El Chapo, what would be a great way to send a message right now? I know that all these reporters are out here doing these interviews. I'm thinking warp the way El Chapo would. I'll have my people spray this with bullets to send a message. And so if I felt that way as a journalist covering the trial, I can only imagine what you prosecutors felt like. You were never worried for your own safety?
I was never worried because I had a great team around me. I mean, I had the privilege of working with federal agents and New York City Police Department officers, members of Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force, NYPD Intel. I was surrounded by these guys all the time, and all of them were armed, so I didn't worry about anything.
You didn't think about that at all?
No.
Wow. So are you a native New Yorker, or where you from?
So I was born in New York. My parents actually came to New York in the 1980s and settled down in Coney Island. It's where they did their medical training at Coney Island Hospital. They lived near Avenue Z. That's where I was born. We moved around the country growing up, but I always wanted to come back to New York to make my life here. So I came back to be a federal prosecutor here.
Wow. And how did you end up at the DEA as the chief of staff for the Drug Enforcement Administration? That's
a great question. So, my focus actually, Dominic, was always terrorism. My focus was going after Al-Qaeda and ISIS. That's what I wanted to do after 9/11. But my boss asked me to take over the narcotics unit. And when I did that, then I shifted to looking at where is the biggest threat coming from? And really the drug that was killing the most Americans at the time, which was around 2021, it was fentanyl. And fentanyl was coming, 90% of fentanyl that comes into this country is coming over the southwest border from the Mexican drug cartels, and the people who were supplying the Mexican drug cartels with the ingredients for fentanyl were the Chinese chemical companies. So I focused on those threats. How do we go after the Mexican drug cartels, and how do we go after the Chinese chemical companies supplying them? And I ended up prosecuting. I was the lead prosecutor on a case against basically the head of Mexico's FBI. He was a cabinet secretary in Mexico who was taking bribes from El Chapo and El Chapo's cartel and giving them protection so that they could operate the largest drug trafficking organization in the world. I took that case to trial. I also helped start some of the first cases in the country against the Chinese chemical companies. And because of that work, that got the attention of folks in Washington, and I was asked to become chief of staff of the DEA.
When you think about your credentials, and we are chatting live in studio with Saritha Komatireddy. She is the Republican candidate for New York Attorney General. The number to reach her, 800-848-9222. Folks, questions, no speeches. Let's go to Erica, line 1 on the Upper West Side. Erica, what is your question for the candidate?
Hi. Yeah, I'm very excited for this candidate. She's an excellent candidate. I'd like to do everything I possibly can to help her win. My question is this. We've had excellent candidates running before. The big problem they've always had is they do not get out there and meet the people. I know New York is a big state, but I hope she has the opportunity to get out there. Having 2 sets of twins, I've had one kid who was like triplets, but she's only one kid. I hope she has the time and the energy. I am sure she's got the energy, but I wish her well. And I think she probably needs fundraising. So if I could help in any way, I'd love to.
Well, I really appreciate those words and of support, Erica. Thank you so much. I want to assure you, listen, there's 62 counties in New York. I've been to almost all of them. We've been through 41. We're going to get through the rest this summer during county fair season. I'm going to go have some cheesecake and milk some cows and make sure I meet everyone in New York. Because,
where do you get all this energy from?
Well, you know what? We have to change New York. We have to. It's not like a nice to have. It's a need to have. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be living in a place with rising lawlessness, rising disorder, and the same kids that I do love very much I will not feel good about raising them here. And I can't have that. I want to make sure they feel safe. I want to make sure they can take the bus to school and be happy about it and be safe, and that I'm not worrying about it. And, to answer the caller's question, we will absolutely be going around. We have been going around the state. We're going to continue to do that, talking about our message and listening to people. And I learn a lot when I listen to citizens, to law enforcement officers, to community members, business owners all across the state about what they're facing. And what I've learned is that the message resonates. Everyone is worried about crime. Everyone is worried about homelessness. Everyone is worried about the fact that they end up paying more day to day because of that lawlessness and that disorder.
Well, Erica, thank you for that great question. I want to get to Sam in Rockland County, but Sam, stand by because I want the candidate to have plenty of time to answer your question. Have you stopped to think yet that at some point the entire nation is going to focus on you in this race because of the Trump element and the hate relationship between Letitia James and President Trump?
You know, I haven't really stopped to think about that. I'm really focused on New Yorkers. What happens in national politics is national politics. We are talking about a state AG's race. And part of the problem with our current state AG is she's totally distracted by national politics and her personal feud with the president. And really, that's not relevant for the rest of us. It doesn't help our lives in any way. I'm going to be focused on New Yorkers. I'm going to be talking to New York voters. That's who I need to make my case to, and I'm confident we're going to be able to make that case, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
Well, we are talking to the candidate herself, Saritha Komatireddy, the Republican nominee for the position of Attorney General of New York State. She's taking your telephone calls. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll talk to former Congressman Peter King. The number to reach the candidate right now, 800-848-9222.
The Dominic Carter Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll chat live with former Congressman Peter King. With us in studio right now at this hour is Saritha Komatireddy. She is the Republican candidate for New York Attorney General. This is a race that's going to focus nationally because of Letitia James and her horrible relationship with President Trump. We see your calls coming in. She's with us for another 5 minutes, give or so, or 8 minutes, maybe. 800-848-9222. Christine in Manhattan, line 1. What's on your mind, Christine?
Wow, what a candidate. Thank God. She zeroed in on a number of things that I feel is the core of crime in New York City, which is corruption of the city agencies. I've seen corruption in the buildings department, primarily HPD, nursing areas. I'm a registered nurse myself, and that is a source of crime, and people in New York are not safe, and nobody has the guts to confront these people. So I heard what she said, and she's got my vote. If there's any way I can support her, I'm a New Yorker for many, many years, and I have a lot of information she might be interested in finding out about.
Fair enough, Christine. Thank you. Let's listen to the candidate to respond.
Well, I really appreciate your support, Christine. I mean, you're right. Thank you for your service as a nurse. You know, a few months ago, I went down to the street as nurses were striking, and I talked to some of the folks on the street. And, you know, I was just asking, you know, what are the concerns? And one of their biggest concerns was safety. And I looked into the data. Felony assaults at hospitals in New York City are up more than 40%, and most people in New York who are charged
40%,
more than 40, and under Tish James, under those years that she's been Attorney General, and most people who are actually charged with assault, 83% of people charged with assault in New York State get out the same day. And you know, there were nurses on the street telling me, "Listen, we're here to help people, but when patients assault us, something has to happen. And right now, there's no consequence. Nothing's happening. And I feel worried about my safety at work, and that's a problem." And I'd ask them, how do you know that nothing happens? What are you seeing? And they said, well, a patient comes in, they assault me, we call the police, and then the next day, the same patient is right back. And I said, well, what do you think should happen? And the nurse said, I think the person should go to jail. You know, this is pretty common sense stuff. This is pretty basic. We've got to keep our people safe. We've got to keep our school teachers safe, our nurses, our transit workers. I interviewed a transit worker yesterday morning who told me about how he had someone at a bus station, punched him in the face, and turned out he had just come from punching another person, an elderly person, and then after he called the cops, that same attacker punched the transit police officer, and then after the attacker was sent to the hospital, that same attacker punched the nurse. And what happened? He got out the next day.
Over and over and over again.
Over and over again. And the problem is, no one's doing anything about it. Tish James supported bail reform. She supported these catch and release laws that are allowing criminals back on the street. And she has no real solution because she's perfectly fine with how things are.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm out of time. You've got the look. You've got the credentials. You've got the education. I am telling you, this lady is no joke. Sitting across from me, running for New York Attorney General, the Republican candidate, Saritha Komatireddy. We're coming right back.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Dominic Carter Show. You can hear The Dominic Carter Show weekdays at 3 p.m. and Monday through Thursday at midnight and Sunday starting at 11 p.m. on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?